It's like something out of Star Trek.
What is that?
It's a lotus plant. You put it in, and it gives you lotus tea.
Lotus tea?
That's trippy lotus tea.
Trippy.
For a drug.
Is that
for
what
a
we're
drug?
doing?
Yeah, no. Just
Is
try
it, we're gonna be tripping?
Yeah, no, it's not like that. it's not. No, this is how they do it, man.
It's infused.
This is how we do it. I probably just created a big faux pas by serving myself first.
Did you?
Probably.
Yeah.
So we should switch mugs.
Anyway, I drink out of the Guten.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Gutenheim.
The Gutenheim.
The Gutenberg is what I'm drinking.
Right. I'm drinking out of my Christmas mug.
Drinking out of the Gutenberg.
Christmas mug.
Alrighty.
You're listening to Articulate with your hosts, Kevin Kramer and Sean Gillespie, your go-to guys for art tips, techniques, and general artist ramblings. Presented by drawingandcoloring.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Articulate, the show where we talk about everything art.
Everything.
Everything art.
Everything.
Everything
You
art.
name it. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today, Kevin?
Today
You
we're
don't
gonna
remember?
be talking about
Think somebody's maybe been on a little bit. Today we're talking about art and drugs.
little drugs and art.
A little bit of a connection there, historically speaking. Artists are usually part of the bohemian lifestyle. At least they have that reputation.
The forefront.
Yeah, sex, drugs, and rock and roll and art are a lot of times all balled up together.
Always.
A lot of artists dying of syphilis and whatnot. So it's true.
I'm thinking more of the 60s art.
No, I'm even going back farther.
You jumped way back
yeah.
into syphilis.
Well, hey man, that's all part of it. Just a new generation, another dollar.
I guess
don't
so.
know. That's a saying, probably. It's gonna be. Is that hot?
That is hot.
What's
God.
got smoke coming off of it. That indicates
Really hot.
That's.
It tasted good though.
We gotta let it cool.
Lotus.
All right. Today we're drinking lotus tea and talking about drugs and art. So,
How appropriate.
let's start off, under our new format. We're talking more about ourselves, and we're working in,
Right.
other artists. And I kind of feel like I'd like to start off by talking about Ralph Steadman. Because I feel like you can't really talk about
good one.
artists and drugs without talking about Ralph Steadman, and mainly due to Hunter S. Thompson. He was
Right.
Hunter S. Thompson's illustrator for 35 plus years. He illustrated for him. Now, this is...
Before he met Hunter S. Thompson, you got to make that, his art was nothing like this.
Okay.
It was completely straight and
Right. And I'd read that his
Vanilla.
art changed a lot due to LSD and
yeah.
his drug experimentation. But,
it'll do that.
right? So I feel like, and I've had this theory for a long time, that all the people historically who did a lot of drugs and partied and they have that reputation, but then they had these careers that lasted 40, 50 years and, and they were amazing. Didn't do as many drugs as as you think. I feel like that way because you can't function in a high, these jobs are high stress and all that.
Right.
And so I started researching old Ralph today, and I read an interview with him by Craig Johnson, which was in this. Let's see, I wrote it down here. It was in Spike magazine, and he was asking him about doing peyote and things like that. And he's like, "Oh no, that was more Hunter S. Thompson's thing. I just did the art." Basically, is what he said. He said that he was really big into cocoa leaves or cacao leaves. He said
Right.
you would put them in your cheek, and that you could go to the top of the mountain, in South America,
Literally and figuratively.
literally and figuratively, and
top of the mountain.
and it would oxygenate your blood and help in that. And,
Interesting.
So he was talking about that, and then also he did do drugs, but here and there he's admitted to doing that, but it wasn't on the level that he did. He did
Right.
This one drug, which is a psychotropic drug. I forget the name of it because it wasn't one that we use today. But it was, but he basically said that he tried it once and he had such a paranoid reaction to it that he didn't ever really try it again.
Is it like
So,
ayahuasca or something?
right. So basically, in summary, the guy who's known for doing all the crazy drugs
Right.
and being druggy art guy,
Did a handful.
maybe not have done as many as you would think. Maybe.
Well,
Ask him about it.
from my own experience, I can say
Confessions
it's a
of
little
an
bit of a
articulate
catalyst.
coast.
It's a little bit of a catalyst.
Okay.
It changes it initially, and then you can Because you can't do anything when you're on those.
No, you can't. You can't make art when you're on that. And the people I know, I don't I'm kind of like, I'm kind of the straight-laced guy on the... I know. It's like hard to talk about it without sounding like a big dork. Right. But the people I know who did drugs in high school and all that, who were, some of them were very talented artists, they lost interest in art because of it. Or if they didn't, then it didn't make their art better. It just made them think their bad ideas were good. And so it get a lot of that. Yeah. But also, like, drugs can cause nerve damage and things like that, which can give you an unsteady hand, and they can ruin you as an artist.
A lot of them, a lot of them just... I'll say the one thing that they are good for initially is that they rewire things and they kind of connect.
This is good, yeah. Well, and and I've
That's how you taste
right
blue, and you hear like
right,
yeah.
Well,
you hear red, things like that. Those kind of things happen, and that's where that initial comes from. Right,
and then that's the thing. I mean, I'm not here to preach to you about doing or not doing drugs. I'm just here to say that your body is your instrument for making art, right? And you need to protect it. You're like basically like an Olympic athlete. The Olympics recently aired,
sure.
And so I feel like you have to treat your body with respect and do things.
You can't be strung out on drugs all the time. Then you're just making either psychotic images, or you're just going to lose your mind.
You're just going to become ineffective, because especially like if you're doing murals or something like that, where you're getting hired to do this work, you're not going to finish work. You're going to build a bad reputation as somebody who doesn't finish their products. Right. I know somebody that's happened to, unfortunately. Yeah. So there's a pull and thing. I mean, I'm not saying don't do drugs, but I'm saying if you do,
fine line.
Get in, get out.
Right.
Call it a day.
I think it gives you don't do drugs. It gives you a taste for the experience.
Right.
And then you can actually coherently decipher what that meant after you're done.
Right. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. You tell me. You've got a bunch of books there. What are those about? Tell me about those.
This book is Aldous Huxley. Aldous Huxley, jeez. The Doors of Perception and the Heaven and Hell. This is a really famous book, actually, for the psychedelic experience.
All right, this is the author of Brave New World.
Right.
Right.
But in this book, he basically runs down an entire experience of him tripping.
Okay.
And he's just exploring fabric in a chair and all of that. It just goes into extreme detail, and it actually captures what it feels like really, really well.
Okay. And
how do
you know like a lot of backstory? Like I don't know much about Huxley. Was he
he was kind of in that time period where everybody was having parties with LSD, and you go over and you're making tea, and then it's like, oh well, there's some LSD in there.
There's no LSD in this tea.
It tastes different though.
Yeah, well, it's different. It's a different kind of tea, but there's no LSD in it.
It tastes a little nutty.
Nutty?
Something. I don't know what that is.
All right.
It's got a really good account of the experience.
Okay.
Which I doubt was written
while he was on it.
Right.
Now that has happened. You definitely get like a stream of conscious writing while they were on drugs. I think a lot of beatniks, possibly, in that.
I will tell you this. I've obviously done some drugs, but
okay, obviously.
Anything that you've seen me, I have images. Like I try to draw stuff. It's just scribbles.
Okay.
It's like, oh, this is amazing. You see all these different hundreds of faces and all these things in a tree and all that, and then the next day you look at it, you can see a little bit, but it's just scribbles.
So you don't feel like it opened a doorway in your mind to another world that helped you?
I mean, it does.
Okay. But
not as much in that moment. Like, I'm not capturing anywhere near what was going through my head.
I got you. I feel like what we're touching on here is something I think about quite a bit, and that's that there are different kind of artists. There's the free-spirited, let the paint flow and let it do its magic on the canvas of the world, artist.
It's magic.
Right, and anything you create is beautiful in its own way. There's that artist, which is awesome. I'm not one of those. I'm more on the opposite end of the spectrum, which is the
calculated,
calculated, almost control freak artist.
Yeah.
Messonnier, for example, was that way. Vermeer, probably. Definitely old Frank Lloyd Wright.
Old Guggenheim.
Yeah, he was that way to an extreme. He was like crazy. But, so for me, I feel like I don't want to do anything that would become like, I don't want to have to do something in order to get to a place of creativity that I can't get to naturally.
I see.
Because if I need to get to that place and I don't have access to that thing,
right,
then I'm lost. And that dependency is it's terrifying to me. So I feel like, and I've read a little bit about that you can do this creative breathing,
Yeah, I was going to say
meditation,
more like
and
meditation
things like that
and
to help you get to that creative place, and you can do it in a natural way as opposed to a drug
instead of throwing yourself into it, because honestly, whenever you do those types of drugs and things like that, you don't know how that experience is going to work out.
Right.
It could go good.
It could go either way.
Or it can go horrible.
Right.
But if you go meditate,
right,
it's not going to be as strong at all.
Right.
Unless you're like a Buddhist monk who knows how to
really
meditate like a pro.
Right.
But those will still... Like, if you go into a deprivation tank, a float tank, it's crazy.
It's like that?
Yeah, you can do all of that stuff. The only thing that I would say would be natural would be mushrooms. Yeah.
I gotta admit, I've never done them. Always been a little curious about the old mushrooms.
They're pretty good.
Never, This guy. Man, who knew?
Hey.
Who knew Kevin was such an adventuresome fella?
The psychedelics.
Okay, all right.
Psychedelics are fun.
Yeah, stay away from the needles.
I haven't
kids.
done anything.
Stay away from the needles.
I haven't done anything in a long time.
Right. Well, you can't. You're running a business. You gotta. You got responsibilities, grown-up things.
Right.
Drugs are for kids.
Can't block out in tired days for recovery and stuff. No.
Right. Well, it makes sense.
They do bring forth things that you might be blocking.
Okay.
So that's kind of what those do. They kind of just break down a wall and throw you into something.
Okay.
But you can get into that place with meditation and the float tanks and stuff like that.
Float tanks? See, I've never done the float tank either.
That's pretty interesting.
I feel like my apartment is kind of a float tank.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. I don't know what that means.
I don't know. You have to take some drugs and figure it out.
Yeah. Just walk around.
What are some of these other books you got? We got a pile over here. I don't know if y'all can see these in the old camera.
Let's see. We got the Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Which is, I haven't read it in a while. I think it's basically people...
jumping on the bus.
Right.
It's Nail Cassidy, or the guy that played, or the character Nail Cassidy is based on, and On the Road by Jack Kerouac drives the bus to Timothy Leary's farm, and Timothy Leary being the guy that invented LSD.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, interesting. Timothy Leary's grandson, at least he claimed to be Timothy Leary's grandson. I don't know. But he used to live here in Austin, and I was pretty good friends with him for a little while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then he unfortunately had a little bit of depression issues and
probably did a lot of drugs.
Well, I don't know. He was an interesting character, though, man. He once hosted this walk-in radio tour where you tuned in on the radio and followed him from bar. It's like a radio bar hop, and you tuned into a certain FM, and we went around. And then at the very end, it had a giant Tesla coil that he was going to light up while clowns dance around it. And he lit it up, and it shut down like 8 blocks of city electricity because the Tesla coil was so strong. So... drugs and,
they make you creative,
modern day adventures.
Sure.
Yeah, he was a real creative guy. I don't know that he did a whole lot, but...
Well, I mean, drugs have always been part of different types of art. You could argue that even the first caveman people ate mushrooms and then drew things on the walls.
Well, I mean, even animals, you watch the nature show, they eat the fermented fruit as it falls off the tree and they all get drunk together.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not,
I think drugs have been a progression. They help progress society with the different arts and different views. Yeah. Like I said, if if you hear something or you can see something which you would normally taste, that
Right.
throws everything into a
Yeah,
whole spin.
my argument isn't anti-experimentation, it's anti-dependency. You know, and
There's
that's the
some
thing.
people that do have
And there are a lot of people who will have addictive personalities, and they
Right.
can't just try something once and be done with it.
Right.
And if you know that about yourself, even an
probably a
inch,
good
then
idea
you
to
need to
stay
stay
away.
away.
Right.
Right.
Go
But
to
if
a
you're,
float tank.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. You
get
meditate
addicted to
other
something
things like
that's
that.
not
Right.
illegal in all
Right.
states.
But if you're somebody who can,
Right. But even like this book, what is it? Be Here Now.
uh-huh.
This is.
That looks like it was written by somebody on drugs.
It is. It was. But it's a spiritual book. And
Yeah.
I think it's Ramdas, the guy who wrote it and you can see, it's like, I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, that's
It's got,
it's not really written left to right.
no,
Up
it's
and
just a
down.
mess of ideas, but they're
It's like,
all...
today I'm writing this way. Now I'm going to write this way.
Exactly.
Labba dabba doo.
But it's like spiritual ramblings.
Right.
While on the drugs.
Okay.
So it's interesting. It's got a lot of cool stuff in it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't looked at any of these in a long time.
Tell you what, man, that book has already inspired me to make some stuff and say I was on drugs.
Exactly.
That book is crazy because, man, I was on some drugs. It's religious. Buy it. I don't know why Harry Carey all of a sudden...
It's like a mix of Cosby and a few things.
And then I smoke a little pot like this. Jibber jibber. Then I put a little bit of LSD in my pudding. Have me a little pudding pop.
Drinking a little bit of LSD.
All right. Can't do that. So,
Okay.
so another thing that I want to go over before we get to the end, though, is the pressure that artists feel to do drugs. Because I feel like, I had a lot of friends who in high school and in college who were experimenting, and as people do at that age. And even though I didn't have a lot of interest in that, I was very pressured. Oh, you're an artist. This will open your mind. Oh, and you hear all these cliches being thrown at you all the time.
Right.
And I'm just curious, like, if you experience that, like, like a higher level of pressure to do drugs and to experiment because you're quote unquote an artist and you're a free thinker and you got to do this. All the artists do it. It'll unlock your paintings, write about it, tell your story. It'll make you a better actor. You know what I mean?
There's definitely a stereotype with that, but I don't know
Right.
if I've ever had it pushed on me specifically because I was an artist.
Really?
More of just peer group.
Okay. Well, that's
But
interesting. Because I feel like there was a higher level of pressure. Now I have a problem with authority.
okay.
You may not know about that. I have if anybody tells me to do something, I instantly don't want to do that thing. I just out of spite, I'm like, no.
I kind of have a little bit of that.
Yeah, and so I started growing my hair out in middle school. Got a lot of crap about it. Got made fun of.
Oh.
Grew that hair out all the way to college. Went down to my waist. Just out of spite and stubbornness. Because I have a problem with authority. If you tell me I can't grow a beard, that beard's going to be like down to here. I'm going to be like ZZ Top walking around just because I don't like anybody telling me what to do. And
You cannot smoke marijuana.
Right, ironically, it actually was the other way.
Really?
Where... my parents, I don't remember them ever giving me, like, the drug talk so much as, just be responsible, all that. Totally cool with it. But my friends are like, no, you need to do this. And I was like, no.
Now I'm not.
I said no to drugs out of stubbornness.
Out of
More
spite.
than out of spite.
Wasn't dare.
Which is funny.
That is
Which
interesting.
is funny. Maybe that's the way to raise your kids. Make them stubborn, and then they won't do things that the other kids want them to do.
It's true. That's
Yeah.
definitely a way.
Which is interesting because, you have, like, authority that tells you to do moral things and to stay moral, but then you also have the subculture of authority, which is trying to pressure you to do the subculture things,
Right.
which is interesting. So you're getting pulled, like, you have to rebel against the authority, the man, then you have to rebel against the people who think that they're rebelling.
So how do you become your own artist, making your own choices and your own decisions while not paying attention to authority?
That's tough, man.
That's
That's a
the
whole nother podcast there.
And that is the question for this ending.
Yeah.
Well,
And plus, send us your drug stories, man. I'd like to read some of those.
yeah, I'm sure they are. What
Yeah.
kind of, have you experimented? Have you done anything with, not saying to go do anything.
Don't do. Yeah, we're not telling you to
Just
do
past
drugs.
stories.
Kids, we are not saying do drugs.
Any past stories you've had of experiments with them.
Or
while
that you've
doing-
heard about.
Or making anything. Yeah, any kind of interesting stories. They're all good to hear.
Or that you drove up to Colorado and legally procured at a legal age to do that. And,
There you go.
in a perfectly legal means.
And if there's another book, go ahead and check out Turn On Your Mind, 4 Decades of Great Psychedelic Rock. That's a good book.
Yeah?
It's got a bunch of stuff in it.
Does it rock?
It rocks this. Yeah.
Rocks the Casbah. Rocks the Casbah.
All right.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, folks.
We'll see you next week. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment below about your story or any questions you have, and we'll see you on iTunes, YouTube, Facebook, wherever we see you next.
Who could know?
All right. We'll see you later.
You've been listening to Articulate with Kevin and Sean. Subscribe on iTunes or check them out on drawingandcoloring.com. Always reminding you to keep it simple.